Yo, what's happening, guys? Coming at you from downforsoundshop.com, and in this video we're going to be doing frequently asked questions segment 40. But first, alright, let's get into this. You probably already know how we do these, but we go in and find questions that you guys have asked in the comment sections of my prior videos, and I personally come in here and answer them for you. So with no further ado, let's get into this. We're going to start out with RageX Tico. His question is, how would you install component speakers without hooking them up to an amplifier with a passive crossover, is what he's talking about. So without an amplifier, you would just run the wire, say if you're using your factory, or you're using a aftermarket head unit or even a factory head unit, whatever the wires are running to your speakers that are in your doors or wherever you're putting your component set at, whatever wires that are running over there, you would just run them into the component, the crossover for the component set. Most component sets come with a crossover, so you would put those two wires in the input section of the crossover, and you'd hook it up like that. So up next we have Big Lou. It says, thanks for doing an FAQ. How can you tell when your lithium, also your supercap, is not charging properly or has a dead cell? Say for example it dies overnight. Will your supercap pull down your lithium when resting? Thanks. I feel like I've answered a question very similar to this, but I'll go ahead and answer it anyway. The way that you can tell is you kind of answered your own question. So you know something is wrong if it's dying overnight. The way that you can specify it or make it more specific to your battery bank is unhook all of the stuff from, say you suspect that your lithium has a bad cell or whatever. So you would charge it up, and then you would unhook everything from it, so the battery is just the battery. Go out there and test it the next morning, and if it's the same voltage or very close to the same voltage it was when you unhooked it, or when you let it rest, when you unhooked it from being charging, then you know the battery is fine. But if it dies overnight, then that pretty much tells you there's a bad cell. If it dies overnight being with the wires hooked up to it and not being not when it's unhooked, sorry, I'm trying to make that clear. So if your battery dies when wires are hooked up to it or when it's hooked up, but it does not die when it's standalone, that lets you know you have some sort of parasitic drain on the battery with something that's hooked up to it. So you need to troubleshoot from there. You could do that by adding one wire at a time to see which one is going to start drawing the battery down. Alright, next up, 850 Kane, rapid fire question. I have two Sundown SA Classic 12s and a D4S Profab enclosure. Would I get better bass from a custom enclosure, or did you build the Profab more or less with the SA subs in mind? The gain would be, it probably wouldn't be noticeable. I wouldn't recommend doing that, even though I would make money off of you trying to sell you a really nice custom enclosure. I'm not here to take advantage of you or anybody else, so you more than likely wouldn't be able to tell the difference, because we did make those Profab boxes to specifically work with the SA subs and those type of Sundown audio subs, so it's optimal for that setup. Up next we have Justin Lawrence. Says, I have two Sundown SA V212s and a D4S Profab on a Sundown Saya 3500. Man, it's so cool. I got to tell you, it's so cool seeing how many people is running Down for Sound products. It's very humbling for me, and I greatly appreciate it. It says he's running that on a 400 amp MacMan alternator with a single AGM under the hood. I'm thinking about jumping up to a JP33. Was wondering if I added a LTO 6.0, if that would be enough, or do you think I'll need more reserve? I do think that the 6.0 would be good for the JP33, but for those subs I would probably go ahead and bump up to the JP43 if you could. And I still think the LTO 6.0 with your big alternator and stuff that you have going, I still think you would be okay. If you notice your voltage dipping a little bit lower than it needs to, then you could just add another one in the future. Alright, last but not least we have T. Corley. What battery would you recommend? I have a daily driver with a 140 amp alternator running around 3000 watts, and it has a regular battery under the hood. Looking for a reliable option. My alt charges around 14.8 to 15.1 approximately. A lot of people that say this, like if it's a factory this a factory alternator. It's very rare for a alternator to charge that high for a long time from the factory. Sometimes in the winter time you can have a little bit higher charging voltage when you first start up, but it'll come back down. If it's only there for a very short amount of time, then you could, I would recommend the LTO 6.0 to put in the back next to your amplifiers, and it should do fine for that. If your voltage stays at 15.1 all the time, then you would need to do something else. Like that's kind of too much voltage for any 12 volt battery. So you would, I just don't think that that's really a realistic voltage number for a long period of time. I think it's just an initial startup number, but 14.8 would be fine. So that's what I'd recommend, the LTO 6.0 for your setup. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all joining us in another frequently asked questions segment. Remember, if you have any questions, ask them below, and if I see them, I'll try to answer them for you. Don't forget about the Down for Sound difference. Guaranteed lowest prices, fastest shipping, best customer service. So we have a ton of different financing options on the website under the financing tab, so be sure to check that out. And also give us a call, 702-701-9800, if you need any help with anything. See you in the next one. Later. What's happening, guys? If y'all enjoyed all the hot content that you saw in that video, be sure to follow me on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram under the Life of Price, and also Down for Sound Shop on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget Snapchat. I'm JPD4S on there, so be sure to check me out there. We'll see you in the next one. Later.